All right, guys, so in our last segment of the day, we're going to talk about Queen Naija and Chris Sail's dispute about their son. All right, guys, so I feel like, these two do this too often, and it's not even really something that we honestly have to see, but they had another dispute about their child. So that everything started with Chris Sales going on live. He goes on live and he pretty much makes this elaborate story and says that, he's not being able to see his son. And he pretty much states that, he's been asking to see his son, and Queen has refused to allow him to see his son because he misses his son. And then, he mentions that he never really hated someone before, but he's really starting to hate Queen. And then he goes on to, just start ranting on Instagram and on Twitter and everywhere else that he could possibly rant publicly. And he ends up saying that I hate this bitch on God. Now, I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But then we're going to talk about what Queen did first. So Queen pretty much states that, Chris is lying. Don't believe him. And that, she's been saying that he could see his son. And the first time that she says no, that he can't see his son, he makes a drastic big deal out of it. She also says that I've been very truthful of him. I even told the judges not to put him on child support. It's not about him or me. It's about the safety of CJ. So she's pretty much stating that, everything that she's stating and everything that she's doing is in regards of her son, which I do not blame, I must admit. She also dropped in some receipts and everything. So, she said, this man is delusional. Don't believe the hype. First time I say no, it's like I never said yes. So this is what her rant was on Twitter. She even says that proof that I'm not being evil or taking his son. I told him he can come see his son. His last response was he didn't want to do that. I've made sure CJ has seen him multiple times, even if I had to buy the tickets myself. But now I'm a bitch. And that's why I want to talk about that, guys, because I'm going to talk about it in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and read off these text messages that were sent. So I believe it starts with Chris stating that he wants to see his son on Father's Day. So I'm going to read them off for you guys. It says, I want to see him on Father's Day. And then Queen says, ask your PO if you can come see him. He says, I can't. Just let me know when he can fly back out here. She says, I don't think he should go to Houston until I can personally get confirmation that he won't have another case opened up. They'll call on you again soon as they see you with him. And I also need your address when you get a chance. He says, for what? And they not gonna open another case just because he's with me. How about call them? Or should I call them and record everything and send it to you? Do you want me to do that? And then Queen states, Chris, I'm on a video shoot. Can I please hit you tomorrow? She says, my day is busy. Trust me, nobody is taking your son from you. Just be patient. He then states, you don't understand because I never told you that you have to fly out to Houston if you want to see your son. But I actually talk to me tomorrow too, because I see you really don't care if I see him or not, because you would have been called up to Houston CPS. She then says, yeah, but I also never had multiple things happen over and over again. CPS come to my door and you never had to worry about CJ not having structure. I am doing this for his safety. He also is being educated so he cannot be gone long periods of time anymore. Why can't your PO allow you to come to see him? Why can't your PO allow you to come see him? You came here before. And then he says, I don't know, want to do that. Well, he pretty much was trying to say he didn't want to do that. And he says he wants him to be there. And then Chris Sales goes on to later post a picture on Instagram saying, if I lose my son, I have nothing else to live for. And that's where all the ranting ends, guys. So, I would like to talk about this because there's a couple different things that I want to talk about. So, for one, I would like to talk about Chris blatantly disrespecting his baby mother. I just don't think that he should be calling her a bitch, because that is such a strong, evil type word for you to use towards a female, for one. For two, this is the mother of your children. You don't want your son growing up and using that kind of language in the future. You want for your son to be a respectful man when he grows up, because you don't want him doing that when he gets to be older. And for three, I think that Queen also needs to stop being blatantly disrespectful to Chris as well. Here's the whole thing. Chris and Queen have this whole back and forth of trying to make each other look bad, so then that way we could pick sides and choose whose side we're on in this whole madness with the two of them. I can sense it, I can see it, and it's complete and utter bullshit. At the end of the day, they're the parents of one child, so they should both be lifting each other up in the eyes of that child. At the end of the day, we have to make the child see who his mother is as a person and see who his father is as a person. We don't want to constantly keep bashing the parents in either light, because then that is the kind of energy that the kid is going to give to that parent as well. And I think that with the both of them trying to tear each other down, that's just ruining the structure of them having a great co-parent relationship. So, Chris was also saying that, he didn't want to go out to Houston and everything, or out to Atlanta, and he wanted Queen to bring CJ out there to him. Now, I do understand where Queen is coming from. Chris has had a whole, situation where he's been locked up and stuff like that, and he's constantly on parole and on probation and everything else. I wouldn't want my kid going to go see you either. And that's just me being completely honest. I think that, he needs to wait until he clears all of his cases with all of his things that are going on with him in his life before he can have his son go anywhere down there. Especially if CPS really was knocking on her door. I wouldn't want my kid going nowhere with you either. If anything, I would want you to come down, come see your kid, and then if anything, I need to be there to monitor everything that's going on. It's not to take anything from him as being a father. It's just for the simple fact that, he has a past. And with that past, you want to make sure that your kid is not in harm's way. So I completely understand where she was coming from. The fact that he didn't want to go down there to see his kid, that means that he's not striving and trying hard enough to go down there and see his child. He has every opportunity to go see his kid. Now, if it's some sort of legal issue that's stopping him from going down there, he needs to make that clear to her. Communication is key, especially when you have kids. I'm not a parent of somebody, but I just know that communication is key, and that's what. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed that podcast, please be sure to tune in every Monday through Friday on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Radio Public, Pocketcasts, and Anchor for the rest of that podcast.